The dashboard clock read 9:37 p.m. as Nathan Creed's pickup truck rumbled down Magnolia Lane. Streetlights cast long pools of amber across the asphalt, illuminating the perfect rows of two-story homes that lined the quiet suburban street. Savannah's summer heat hung in the air despite the late hour. "You play great tonight, bud," Nathan said, glancing at his son in the passenger seat. Callum's Little League uniform was stained with red Georgia clay, evidence of his diving catch that had saved the game. Callum shrugged, his 11-year-old face serious beyond his years. "Coach says I need to work on my swing." "Your swing's just fine." That hit in the fourth inning was solid. Nathan reached over and ruffled Callum's hair. The boy allowed it for half a second before ducking away, but not before Nathan caught the hint of smile. As they turned into their driveway, Nathan's headlights swept across a figure hurrying toward them. Jonas Burke waved his arms frantically, his weathered face tense with urgency. Nathan felt his stomach tighten. Jonas was not the type to overreact. "Wait here," Nathan told Callum, putting the truck in park and killing the engine. He stepped out, one hand instinctively reaching for his phone. "Nate," Jonas' voice dropped to a harsh whisper as he approached. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cooling evening air. "I saw someone inside your house." Nathan's jaw clenched. "Marissa's car is not here." "It's not just Marissa. There's a man in there," Jonas said, his eyes darting toward the house. "I came over to return your socket wrench and saw them through the window." The hair on the back of Nathan's neck stood up. Years of Marine training kicked in as he assessed the situation. "Callum," he called over his shoulder, keeping his voice steady. "Come here, bud." The boy climbed out of the truck, his eyes wide with confusion. "What's wrong, Dad?" "Nothing to worry about. We were just going to hang out at Mr. Burke's for a minute while I make a call." Nathan placed a protective hand on his son's shoulder and guided him toward Jonas. "Can you take him to your place?" Nathan asked, his voice low. "I'm calling the police." Jonas nodded, putting an arm around Callum. "Come on, kiddo. Camille just made some cookies." Nathan pulled out his phone and dialed 911, his eyes never leaving the house's house. The windows glowed with warm light, the curtains half drawn. Through the gap, he caught a glimpse of movement in the living room. 911, what's your emergency?" "This is Nathan Creed at 237 Magnolia Lane. My neighbor just informed me there's an intruder in my house." Nathan kept his voice controlled. "Factual, I'm outside with my son. No one's gone in yet." The operator assured him officers would arrive shortly. Nathan paced the driveway, his mind racing through possibilities. None of them good. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars pulled up, lights flashing but sirens silent. Officer Raquel Stroud stepped out of the first car, her young face serious as she approached. "Mr. Creed? I'm Officer Stroud." She extended a hand which Nathan shook firmly. "Your wife and son are not inside." "My son's with me." "My wife?" Nathan checked his watch. "She said she was meeting friends for dinner. Her car's not here." Officer Stroud nodded, taking any information. "Stay here," she instructed before signaling to her partner. They approached the house cautiously, hands near their weapons. Nathan watched as the officers peered for the front window. Officer Stroud's posture changed immediately. She turned and walked back to Nathan, her expression shifting from alert concern to uncomfortable awareness. "Mr. Creed, I think you should come see this," she said quietly. A cold feeling spread through Nathan's chest as he followed Officer Stroud to the window. What he saw froze him in place. Marissa sat on their couch, laughing, a glass of wine in her hand. Across from her sat a man Nathan had never seen before, athletic build, styled hair, a self-satisfied smirk on his face as he leaned toward Marissa. On the floor, scattered like fallen leaves, were torn fragments of what Nathan recognized as their wedding photos. "I not believe this," Officer Stroud muttered, genuine surprise in her voice. Nathan stood motionless, the scene burning itself into his memory. 15 years of marriage, a life built together, all of it scattered on the floor like trash, his expression hardened into stone. "I need to go in." Nathan's voice was quiet but firm, leaving no room for argument. Officer Stroud hesitated. "Mr. Creed, given the circumstances, it's my house. My name's on a deed." Nathan met her gaze steadily. "And that's my wife in there with another man." After a moment, she nodded. "We'll accompany you in case things escalate." Nathan walked up the familiar path to his front door, each step measured and deliberate. He did not bother with his key. Instead, he turned the handle, unlocked, of course. Why would Marissa bother locking up when she thought he would not be home for hours? The door swung open. The laughter inside cut off abruptly. Marissa froze mid-sentence, wine glass halfway to her lips. The man beside her straightened, surprised flickering across his face before settling into a smug expression that made Nathan's fingers curl into fists. Nathan, Marissa's voice pitched high with fake concern. What's going on? Why are the police here? Nathan took in the scene with clinical detachment, 2 empty wine bottles on the coffee table, music playing softly from the Bluetooth speaker, the scattered remnants of their wedding photos. The air smelled of Marissa's perfume and unfamiliar cologne. Jonas saw someone in the house. Nathan said flatly. He thought it was an intruder. An intruder? Marissa let out a forced laugh. God, that's ridiculous. This is Cooper. He's a friend from the gym. Cooper gave a half wave, entirely too comfortable on Nathan's couch. Hey man, sorry for the confusion. Nathan ignored him, his eyes fixed on Marissa. Where's the rest of your dinner group? A flash of guilt crossed Marissa's face before she recovered. Plans changed. Clearly, Nathan's gaze dropped to the torn photos. What happened there? Marissa followed his gaze, her expression hardening. We were going through old things, decluttering. Nathan repeated the word, tasting like ash. Officer Stroud cleared her throat. Ma'am, when your neighbor spotted an unknown man in the house, he was concerned enough to call in a possible break-in. We responded accordingly. Well, as you can see, everything's fine. Marissa snapped, then softened her tone, glancing at Cooper. It was just a misunderstanding. Nathan fell to presence behind him and turned to see Callum in the doorway. His young face, a mask of confusion. Mom, he called, stepping past Nathan, that Marissa's face paled. Callum, baby, what are you doing home so early? Your game, it ended. Callum said simply, his eyes moving from his mother to Cooper, then to the torn photos on the floor. Understanding dawned on his face with a clarity that broke Nathan's heart. You re-scaring him? Marissa accused, standing abruptly. Nathan, you re-overreacting and scaring our son. This is, do not. Nathan's voice cut through the room like a blade, not in front of him. Cooper stood, arms crossed over his chest. Look, man, maybe you should calm down. This is not what you think. Nathan turned to him for the first time. His gaze so cold that Cooper's smirk faltered. You do not get to speak in my house. Mara made a note. That's good. Consistent caregivers will help our case. She looked up, her gaze direct. Mr. Collins filed the initial papers yesterday. As expected, your wife is seeking full custody, citing your military background as evidence of potential instability. Nathan's jaw tightened. I've been out of the Marines for 12 years. Never had so much as a parking ticket since. I know, I checked. Mara's smile was brief but genuine. Collins is operating from a playbook, not from facts, which works in our favor. She turned her monitor so Nathan could see it. On the screen was a document with Marissa's name at the top. Your wife has been busy on social media. These are screenshots from private messages she sent to mutual friends. Notice how she consistently refers to you as controlling and aggressive, terms she never used before 2 weeks ago. Nathan read the messages, his expression hardening. People he and Marissa had known for years. Couples they had over for barbecues, and she was poisoning them against him. She's building a narrative, Mara explained. One where she's the victim fleeing an abusive situation rather than a woman who cheated and got caught. What do? We counter with facts. Mara tapped a key, bringing up another document. I've already drafted a motion to freeze your joint accounts based on the unauthorized withdrawals. That stops the bleeding. Then we gather sworn statements from character witnesses, your clients, neighbors, Collins' teachers. We establish that you're a stable, loving father who's never shown any sign of the behavior she's alleging. Nathan nodded slowly, thinking of the projects he completed around the neighborhood. The school playground he helped build. The countless parents who seen him coach Callum's teams. What about Callum? He asked, the question that had been weighing on him heaviest. Marissa's been trying to turn him against me, telling him I'm trying to take him away from her. Something flashed in Mara's eyes, a controlled anger that told Nathan he'd chosen the right attorney. That's called parental alienation, Mr. Creed. It's not just morally reprehensible, it's self-actionable in court. She made another note. We request a guardian ad litem, a court-appointed advocate who represents only Callum's interests. Someone who can speak to what he wants without either parent's influence. For the first time in weeks, Nathan felt a glimmer of hope. Not just that he might survive this, but that he might actually win. There's one more thing. Mara said, her expression serious. Officer Stroud contacted me this morning. Your wife has filed a police report claiming you threatened her and Mr. Vance the night you discovered them together. Nathan's blood ran cold. That's a lie. I know. So does Officer Stroud, which is why she called me directly instead of bringing you in for questioning. Mara met his gaze steadily, but it's a serious allegation and it complicates matters. She's trying to set me up, Nathan said. The reality of Marissa's betrayal sinking deeper. Yes, and we're going to use that against her. Mara closed her laptop. Mr. Creed, I need to be clear about something. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Mrs. Creed and Mr. Collins will escalate their tactics when they realize you're not rolling over. They'll try to provoke you to make you act in ways that support their narrative. Nathan nodded, understanding. I will not give them the satisfaction. Good. Mara stood, signaling the end of their meeting. Focus on Callum. Be the father he knows you are. Document everything. But otherwise, live your life normally. Let me handle the rest. As Nathan stood to leave, Mara added, and Mr. Creed, take photos of the house as it is now. With Mr. Vance's possessions visible, we'll need that for the property division arguments. Nathan paused at the door. Ms. Tinsley, what are our chances? Mara's smile was cold and precise. Mr. Collins is used to intimidating people into submission. He's not used to facing opponents who fight back with his own tactics. She straightened a pen on her desk. I've beaten him the last 3 times we've faced each other in court. I intend to make this number 4. That afternoon, Nathan picked up Callum from the Burke's house. The boy seemed quieter than usual as they drove to the small apartment Nathan had rented nearby. Callum finally asked, staring out the window, is Mom really going to make me live with her and Cooper? Nathan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. No, but that's not going to happen. She said, you do not want me anymore. Callum's voice was small, uncertain. She said, that's why you left. Nathan pulled the truck over, putting it in park before turning to face his son. Callum, look at me. He waited until the boy met his eyes. I will never ever stop wanting you in my life. You're the most important person in the world to me. I left the house because I needed to keep things peaceful for you. Not because I wanted to go. Callum's eyes welled with tears. I heard her telling Cooper that they're going to move to Florida after they get the house. She said, I'd like the beach. Nathan fought to keep his expression neutral despite the rage coursing through him. Callum, I promise you this, we're not going anywhere. This is your home, your school, your friends. No one's taking that from you. The boy's lower lip trembled. She's different now. She yells a lot. Mostly at Cooper, but sometimes at me if I ask about you. Nathan's heart ached. I'm sorry you're going through this, but it's not fair to you. I do not want to go back there. Callum whispered, can I just stay with you? You can stay with me tonight. Nathan assured him, and we're going to figure the rest out very soon. I promise. That evening, after Callum had fallen asleep on the pull-out couch in their cramped apartment, Nathan sent a text to Marissa planning to take Callum to Florida after divorce. He overheard her discussing it with Cooper need to move faster. That Mara's response came within minutes, filing emergency custody motion tomorrow morning. Get Callum to school as usual. I'll handle the rest. For the first time since that night, 3 weeks ago, Nathan allowed himself to feel the full weight of his anger, not just at the betrayal, but the calculated cruelty of Marissa's plans. She'd known exactly what would hurt him most. Taking Callum away, he'd spent years building a life for them, working endless hours to provide the kind of stability he'd never had growing up. And Marissa was willing to destroy it all for what? A fling with a gym trainer and some fantasy of a glamorous life in Florida? Nathan looked at his sleeping son, so innocent and undeserving of this chaos. He made a silent vow. Marissa had started this war, but he would be the one to finish it. The call from Callum's principal came just after noon the next day. Mr. Creed, this is Principal Harmon from Oak Ridge Elementary. There's been an incident involving Callum. Nathan's heart raced as he grabbed his keys, already heading for the door of the job site. Is he hurt? No, nothing like that. Principal Harmon assured him. But we need you to come in. Mrs. Creed is already here. Nathan made the 15-minute drive and ate, his mind racing with possibilities. When he arrived at the school, the secretary directed him to the principal's office with a sympathetic smile that only increased his concern. Inside, he found Callum slumped in a chair, his face tear-streaked. Marissa sat beside him, her hand on his shoulder in what appeared to be a comforting gesture, though Nathan noticed how Callum leaned away from her touch. Across from them sat Principal Harmon, her expression grave. What happened? Nathan asked, moving immediately to Callum's other side. Marissa shot him a venomous look. What happened is that your son punched another boy in the face. Cooper, and I've been trying to teach him that violence is not the answer, but clearly. Mrs. Creed, Principal Harmon interrupted gently. Let us stick to the facts. She turned to Nathan. There was an altercation during recess. According to several witnesses, another student, Tyler, was saying some unfortunate things about your family situation. You said my mom was sleeping with a muscle man and that my dad was going to jail for being crazy. Callum burst out, fresh tears streaming down his face. He said everyone knows. Nathan felt the blood drain from his face, then surged back hot with anger. He took a deep breath, placing a steadying hand on Callum's shoulder. That does not mean you can hit people, bud. But I understand why you were upset. Of course, you condone violence. Marissa snapped, then softened her tone for Principal Harmon's benefit. This is exactly what I've been worried about, these aggressive tendencies. Principal Harmon held up a hand. Mrs. Creed, we've had no previous behavioral issues with Callum. He's always been one of our most well-behaved students. Until his father started filling his head with lies about me. Marissa countered. Nathan ignored her, focusing on Callum. Are you okay otherwise? The boy nodded miserably. Am I in a lot of trouble? Principal Harmon answered before either parent could. We have a zero-tolerance policy for physical altercations, Callum. You'll need to serve detention tomorrow. And I'll be calling Tyler's parents about his comments, which were also inappropriate. I understand, Callum mumbled. Now Principal Harmon continued, addressing both parents, I'm aware that your family is going through some changes. While that's certainly difficult, the school cannot become a battleground for personal issues. She gave Marissa a pointed look before turning to Nathan. Mr. Creed, as Callum has been staying with you most recently, would you like to take him home for the remainder of the day? He's understandably upset. Absolutely not. Marissa interjected. The custody arrangement is currently under emergency review. Nathan completed pulling out his phone to show Principal Harmon the email from Mara. My attorney filed this morning based on evidence of parental alienation and flight risk. Marissa's face flushed with anger. You not do that. I already have. Nathan turned back to Principal Harmon. Yes, I'll take Callum home. And I'd appreciate it if the school could note any unusual pickup attempts in his file. My attorney will provide the official documentation once the hearing is scheduled. Principal Harmon nodded, her expression carefully neutral. Will make a note in the system. As they left the office, Marissa grabbed Nathan's arm, her nails digging into his skin. You think you're so clever? She hissed, quiet enough that Callum, walking ahead, could not hear. But Cooper has friends. Important friends. They know what you're trying to do. Nathan removed her hand from his arm, his voice equally low. Touch me again and I'll add assault to the list of charges. Her eyes widened. Charges? You not be serious. False police report. Parental alienation. Financial fraud. Nathan listed them calmly. And now your boyfriend is making threats? Not smart, Marissa. For a brief moment, uncertainty flickered across her face before she recovered. Her expression hardening. You'll regret this, Nathan. When I'm done, you'll be lucky if they let you see Callum on holidays. We'll see. Nathan turned away, joining Callum, who waited by the exit doors. He placed a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder, guiding him out to the truck. As they drove home, Callum remained silent, staring out the window. Want to talk about it? Nathan finally asked. Callum shrugged, then asked, Are you going to jail? No, but that's not happening. Then why did Tyler say that? Callum turned to him, confusion evident in his young face. And why is Mom telling everyone you're dangerous? Nathan chose his words carefully. Sometimes when adults are angry or scared, they say things that are not true. Your mom is going through a lot of changes right now and she's not handling it well. Is that why she keeps talking bad about you to Cooper? I heard them last night. Nathan tensed. What did you hear exactly? Callum hesitated. She was really mad, yelling about how you were trying to ruin everything. Said she should have filed the police report sooner. He fidgeted with his seatbelt. Cooper told her to calm down, but the neighbors would hear. Then she started yelling at him too. An idea formed in Nathan's mind. Callum, do you have your phone with you? The boy nodded, pulling it from his backpack. Nathan had given him the phone when he started walking to friends' houses alone, a basic model meant for emergencies and check-ins. Next time you hear them talking like that, if you feel safe doing it, could you record what they saying? Just hit the voice memo button. Nathan knew he was treading dangerous ethical ground, but Marissa had left him no choice. It might help us sort out all this confusion. Callum considered this, then nodded solemnly. I can do that. That night, Nathan received a text from a number he did not recognize. This is Cooper. We need to talk without Marissa knowing. Nathan stared at the message, suspicion coursing through him. Was this another of Marissa's traps? A setup to claim he threatened Cooper. After careful consideration he replied, public place only tomorrow for side part noon by the fountain. Cooper's response came quickly. I'll be there. Come alone. Nathan forwarded the exchange tomorrow before deleting it from his phone. Whatever Cooper wanted, Nathan would not face it unprepared. The next day, Nathan arrived at Forsyth Park 15 minutes early, positioning himself on a bench with clear sight lines to all approaches. The summer heat had driven most people to seek shade, leaving the central fountain area relatively quiet. Cooper appeared right on time, wearing expensive sunglasses and athletic clothes that looked more appropriate for a fashion shoot than natural workout. He scanned the area before spotting Nathan and approaching with a confidence that immediately set Nathan's teeth on edge. Thanks for meeting me, Cooper said, taking a seat on the bench but maintaining a careful distance. What do you want? Nathan asked, not bothering with pleasantries. Cooper removed his sunglasses, revealing bloodshot eyes. Look, man, this has gotten out of hand. Marissa, he hesitated. She's not who I thought she was. Nathan said nothing. Waiting. She told me you guys were already separated when we met. Cooper continued, said you were abusive, that she was afraid to leave officially. I believe her. Why would not I? But now you realizing you were just a pawn. Nathan finished for him. Cooper winced. She's obsessed with destroying you. The stuff she's been saying, the things she wants me to claim I saw. He shook his head. I'm not a saint. Okay. But I draw the line at lying under oath. Nathan studied him carefully. Why are you telling me this? Self-preservation. Cooper leaned forward, lowering his voice. Last night, she was talking about getting a restraining order against you, claiming you threatened her at the school. When I pointed out I was not there to witness it, she went ballistic through a glass in my head. He turned slightly, revealing a small cut at his temple partially hidden by his hair. I'm starting to think all those stories about you might have been projections. Nathan thought of Callum, of how he described Marissa yelling at Cooper. The pieces aligned with what Cooper was saying, but Nathan was not ready to trust him. What exactly do you want from me? Nathan asked again. I want out, Cooper admitted, but she's got her claws in deep. The other day she accidentally CC'd me on an email to her lawyer about naming me as a correspondent in the divorce, claiming we'd been having an affair for years. He ran a hand through his hair. I've got a personal training businessman. I not afford that kind of reputation hit. So you want me to help you save your skin? Nathan's voice was flat. I'm offering you ammunition, Cooper countered. Marissa has been documenting everything, building this case against you. She's got a whole file on her laptop, dates, times, made-up incidents. She even rehearses what she's going to say in court. His expression darkened. She's using your kid as a weapon, and it's messed up. Nathan thought of Callum's tear-streaked face in the principal's office, of the confusion and pain the boy had endured. His resolve hardened. If you're serious about helping, I need proof, Nathan said. Not just your word. Cooper nodded, pulling out his phone. I took photos of some of the documents when she was in the shower, and I recorded her last night talking about how she's going to claim you threatened her. He hesitated, but I need assurance you would not throw me under the bus completely. I made a mistake getting involved with her, but I did not know what I was walking into. Nathan's instinct was to tell Cooper exactly what he thought of him, of men who pursued married women, who inserted themselves into families without a second thought for the damage they caused. But Mara's voice echoed in his head. Focus on what matters. Everything else is noise. Send everything to this email, Nathan said, writing down one of Mara's secure addresses. Then get your own lawyer. If what you're saying is true, we might be able to work something out. Cooper looked relieved, pocketing the paper. There's one more thing you should know. The house she's planning to sell it as soon as the divorce is final. Already is a buyer lined up through some friend of hers in real estate. Nathan's jaw tightened. The house he renovated himself. The home he built for Callum. Thanks for the heads up. As Cooper stood to leave, he hesitated. For what it's worth. I'm sorry about how this all went down. Your kid's a good little dude. He deserves better than being caught in the middle of this mess. Nathan said nothing. Watching as Cooper walked away. Only when a younger man was out of sight did he pull out his phone to call Mara. Cooper Vance just gave us everything we need, he said when she answered. And Marissa does not even know it yet. Are you absolutely insane? Marissa's voice carried clearly through the phone speaker set on Nathan's kitchen table. Mara Tinsley sat across from him, taking notes as they listened to the recording Callum had made the previous night. Keep your voice down. Cooper's response was tense, barely audible. I will not keep my voice down in my own house. Objects clattered in the background. You made nice with him? After everything I told you. Marissa, this has gone too far. The fake police report using Callum. Do not you dare take a side. Nathan is manipulating you. Just like he manipulated me for years. Really? Because from where I'm standing, you were the one doing the manipulating. You lied to me about when you separated. You lied about him being abusive. And now you want me to lie under oath. A sharp sound of slap, perhaps followed by Cooper's curse. Get out, Marissa hissed. Get out. Gladly. And when your perfect little plan falls apart, do not come crying to me. The recording ended with the sound of a door slamming. Mara stopped the playback. Her expression grim but satisfied. This, combined with the documents Cooper provided, gives us more than enough to counter her claims of abuse. She turned to Nathan. Your son took a significant risk recording this. Nathan nodded, pride mingling with concern. He should not have had to know he should not have. Mara tapped her pen against her notepad. But it demonstrates something important. Callum understands what's happening. And he's chosen his side. The emergency custody hearing was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, Mara had advised Nathan to maintain a careful facade to appear conciliatory while they gathered their ammunition. Let her think she's winning. Mara had instructed. The more overconfident she becomes, the more mistakes she'll make. Following that advice, Nathan had sent Marissa a carefully worded text. I do not want to fight. We need to discuss settlement terms that work for everyone, especially Callum. That Marissa's response had been immediate and smug. Finally seeing reason, my lawyer will draw up terms. Be prepared to compromise for the next 3 days. Nathan maintained charade. He agreed to preliminary meetings, responded politely to Marissa's increasingly demanding messages, and did not react when she sent photos of Cooper back in the house. Clearly meant to provoke him. All the while, Mara's team worked tirelessly. Officer Stroud provided a sworn statement contradicting Marissa's police report. Jonas and Camille Burke gave depositions about what they witnessed the night Nathan discovered the affair, as well as Marissa's subsequent behavior. Callum's teachers submitted letters of testing to Nathan's involvement in his son's education and activities. And then there was the property deed, the final piece of Mara's strategy. It's quite remarkable, she explained, showing Nathan the document. When you refinanced last year to renovate the master bathroom, the title company made an error. They listed you as the sole owner rather than joint tenants with rights of survivorship. Technically, the house has been exclusively yours for over a year. Nathan frowned. That's not be right. We both signed the papers. You did. But the recording office made a mistake in the filing and no one caught it. Mara's smile was razor sharp. Marissa's been living in your house, Mr. Creed. And when she filed that false police report claiming you threatened her, she was effectively admitting to squatting in a property she had no legal right to occupy. Can we use that? We're going to build our entire case around it. Mara tapped the document. This is our ace. We do not play it until we in court, understood? Let Collins think he's facing a standard divorce case until it's too late for him to pivot. The day before the hearing, Cooper Vance contacted Nathan again. This time through Mara's office. He's offered to testify. Mara informed Nathan during their final preparation meeting. He confirmed that Marissa coached him on what to say about your behavior, that she admitted to filing a false police report, and that she explicitly told him her goal was to take everything from you, including Callum. Nathan processed this information, a mix of emotions churning within him. Why would he do that? He has to know Marissa will come after him next. Self-preservation, most likely, Mara replied. Once he realized how willing Marissa was to lie, he probably figured it was only a matter of time before she turned on him too. Better to get ahead of it. Can we trust him? Not entirely, but we do not need to. Mara smiled thinly. We have enough without him. His testimony is just the final nail in the coffin. That evening, Nathan sat with Callum in their small apartment, helping with homework despite the upcoming hearing weighing heavily on his mind. The boy had been quiet lately, withdrawing into himself as the adult chaos swirled around him. Dad, Callum finally asked, setting down his pencil, what's going to happen tomorrow? Nathan considered how to answer, balancing honesty with age-appropriate information. Tomorrow, a judge is going to listen to both Mom and me and then decide what happens next with our family. Callum nodded solemnly. Are they going to make me choose? No, bud, you do not have to choose. Nathan put an arm around his son's thin shoulders. The judge wants what's best for you. That is all. I want to stay with you, Callum said, his voice small but certain. Mom's different now. She scares me sometimes. Nathan pulled him closer, heart aching at his son's admission. I'm fighting for that, Callum. Promise. Later, after Callum had fallen asleep, Nathan received one final text from Marissa. My lawyer says you'll be lucky to get supervised visits after tomorrow. Hope it was worth it. Nathan did not respond. Tomorrow, words would no longer be necessary. The family court was smaller than Nathan had imagined. More administrative office than the grand wood panel chamber scene on television. Judge Eleanor Weathers presided from modest bench. Her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun. Reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed the case file. Nathan sat beside Mara at the plaintiff's table, his navy suit pressed and conservative. Across the aisle, Marissa wore a cream-colored dress that emphasized her slender frame, her hair and makeup carefully styled to project vulnerability. Beside her, Richard Collins arranged papers with manicured hands, occasionally leaning over to whisper something that made Marissa nod or smile thinly. There was no sign of Cooper Vance. All rise, the bailiff announced as Judge Weathers set aside the file. Once everyone was seated again, the judge surveyed the room with sharp eyes that suggested she'd seen every tactic, every performance before. This is an emergency hearing regarding custody and occupancy in a matter of Creed versus Creed, she stated. I've reviewed the preliminary filings from both parties. Given the serious allegations involved, I'll hear arguments directly rather than through submissions alone. She nodded to Richard Collins. Counsel for the respondent may begin. Collins rose smoothly, buttoning his expensive suit jacket. Thank you, Your Honor. As our filings detail, Mrs. Creed is seeking emergency sole custody of the minor child, Callum Creed, due to concerns about Mr. Creed's stability and behavior. Mrs. Creed has documented a pattern of controlling and intimidating conduct that culminated 2 weeks ago when Mr. Creed threatened both her and a family friend in their home. Nathan kept his expression neutral as Collins continued, painting a picture of Marissa as a devoted mother terrorized by an increasingly unstable ex-Marine. The attorney spoke confidently, referencing the police report and Marissa's detailed accounts of Nathan's supposed outbursts. Furthermore, Your Honor, Collins continued, Mrs. Creed has been the child's primary caregiver throughout the marriage, managing his education, health care, and daily needs while Mr. Creed focused on his contracting business. It would be deeply damaging to remove Callum from his mother's care, especially given Mr. Creed's demonstrated volatility. When Collins finally sat, Judge Weathers turned to Mara. Counsel for the plaintiff, Mara stood, her simple black suit a contrast to Collins' flashier attire. Your Honor, we're not here today because Mr. Creed is unstable or threatening. We're here because Mrs. Creed was caught in an extramarital affair and has since engaged in a systematic campaign to alienate Mr. Creed from his son and deprive him of his property. She approached the bench, handing over a folder. These are sworn statements from Officer Raquel Stroud, who responded to the call the night Mr. Creed discovered his wife's infidelity, as well as from the neighbors who witnessed the events. All contradict Mrs. Creed's account of threats or intimidation. Judge Weathers reviewed the documents as Mara continued. Additionally, Your Honor, we have evidence that Mrs. Creed has been actively alienating Callum from his father, telling the child that Mr. Creed abandoned them and does not want him any more. Statements directly contradicted by Mr. Creed's consistent efforts to maintain his relationship with his son. Collins interrupted, rising halfway from his seat. Your Honor, these are baseless accusations without. You'll have your opportunity for rebuttal, Mr. Collins. Judge Weathers said firmly, please continue, Ms. Tinsley. Mara nodded. We have recordings, Your Honor, made by Callum himself of Mrs. Creed disparaging Mr. Creed and coaching the child on what to say about his father. We also have documentation of Mrs. Creed's plan to remove Callum from the jurisdiction once the divorce is finalized specifically to Florida, away from the only home, school, and community he has known. Collins stood fully this time. Your Honor, any recordings made without Mrs. Creed's consent would be inadmissible under. Georgia is a one-party consent state, Mr. Collins. Mara cut and smoothly. And given that the recordings were made in Callum's own home and capture conversations, he was part of their fully admissible. Judge Weathers held up a hand. I'll review the recordings and chambers to determine their relevance and admissibility. What else do you have, Ms. Tinsley? 2 final points, Your Honor. Mara returned to her table, retrieving another document. First, the police report Mrs. Creed filed alleging threats from Mr. Creed has been withdrawn by the reporting officer herself, who states in this affidavit that Mrs. Creed's account contradicted both her own observations that night and statement from other witnesses. She handed the document to the judge before producing one last paper. And finally, Your Honor, this is the property deed for the Creed residence. As you note, due to a recording error during refinancing last year, the property is listed solely in Mr. Creed's name. Mrs. Creed has no legal claim to the residence, meaning when she filed the aforementioned false police report about Mr. Creed threatening her in their home, she was essentially admitting to squatting in a property where she had no legal right to be. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Nathan glanced at Marissa, whose face had gone pale. Collins was frantically flipping through his papers, clearly blindsided. Furthermore, Mara continued, relentless. Mrs. Creed has moved her paramour, Mr. Cooper Vance, into the residence without Mr. Creed's permission, has begun selling household items that belong to Mr. Creed and has been depleting joint financial accounts in preparation for leaving the state. Judge Weathers studied the property deed carefully. Mr. Collins, were you aware of this title situation? Collins stood visibly rattled. Your Honor, this is the first I'm hearing of this particular document. We would need time to verify its authenticity and it's on file with the county recorder's office. Mara interjected. Verification would take a simple phone call. The courtroom doors opened and Nathan turned to see Cooper Vance enter, looking uncomfortable in a suit that seemed a size too small. Marissa's face twisted with rage at the sight of him. Your Honor, Mara said, we've subpoenaed Mr. Vance to testify regarding Mrs. Creed's statements and behavior. Judge Weathers observed the new arrival with interest. Given these developments, I think we'd better hear from Mr. Vance. She gestured to the bailiff. Please swear in the witness. After Cooper was sworn in, Mara approached him. Mr. Vance, what is your relationship with Mrs. Creed? Cooper shifted uncomfortably. We were involved romantically. It started about 6 months ago at the gym where I work. And what did Mrs. Creed tell you about her marriage at that time? She said she and Nathan, Mr. Creed, were separated, that he was controlling and had anger issues from his time in the Marines. Cooper avoided looking at either Nathan or Marissa. She said she was afraid to file for divorce officially because of how he might react. What did you learn? This was not true. Cooper swallowed the night Nathan and the police found us at the house. I realized then that he had no idea about us. They were not separated at all. Mara nodded. And after that night, did Mrs. Creed discuss her plans regarding the divorce and custody of her son? Objection. Collins stood. Hearsay, Your Honor. Goes to state of mind and intent. Your Honor, Mara countered. Judge Weather is considered. I'll allow it. The witness may answer. Cooper took a deep breath. She told me she was going to take everything, the house, their savings, full custody of Callum. She said she'd make sure Nathan never saw his son again. He glanced at Marissa, who was glaring at him with undisguised hatred. She coached me on what to say if I was asked about Nathan's behavior, that he was threatening, aggressive. None of it was true. Did Mrs. Creed discuss filing a police report against Mr. Creed? Yes. She said it would help her case if there was an official record of his threatening behavior. She filed it after making up a story about him coming to the house and threatening us both. Cooper's voice grew quieter. I told her I would not lie to the police. And that's when things started falling apart between us. For the next 20 minutes, Cooper detailed Marissa's plans, her manipulation of Callum, and her stated intention to leave Georgia as soon as the divorce was finalized. With each revelation, Marissa's expression grew darker, her knuckles white as she gripped the edge of the table. When Mara finished her questioning, Collins declined to cross-examine, clearly recognizing the damage was done. Judge Weathers called a brief recess during which Nathan watched Marissa and Collins in intense, whispered conversation. Collins kept shaking his head, his usual confidence evaporated. When court resumed, Judge Weathers removed her glasses and addressed the room. I've reviewed the evidence presented, including the recordings provided by the minor child, and I find them both admissible and deeply troubling. Her gaze fell on Marissa. Mrs. Creed, this court takes a very dim view of parental alienation, false police reports, and attempts to remove children from the jurisdiction to deprive the other parent of access. She turned to Nathan. Mr. Creed, while I sympathize with your position, I must prioritize Callum's well-being above all else. To that end, I am granting you temporary sole physical custody with Mrs. Creed to have supervised visitation until a full hearing can be scheduled. Nathan felt a wave of relief so powerful it was almost dizzying. Furthermore, Judge Weathers continued, based on the property deed presented, I am ordering Mrs. Creed and any other occupants to vacate the residence at 237 Magnolia Lane within 48 hours. All joint financial accounts are frozen pending the final divorce hearing. She fixed Marissa with a stern look. And Mrs. Creed, let me be absolutely clear. If any evidence emerges of further attempts to alienate Callum from his father or to circumvent this court's orders, I will not hesitate to eliminate visitation entirely and consider charges for contempt. Do you understand? Marissa's yes, Your Honor, was barely audible. They asked the judge concluded the hearing. Nathan turned to Mara. Thank you does not seem adequate. It was a good day. Mara replied simply, but this was just the opening battle. Collins will regroup and try new tactics for the full divorce hearing. Will you have anything left to work with? Mara allowed herself a small smile. Not much. We've effectively neutralized their primary strategy. Now we just need to maintain course until the final hearing. As they gathered their papers, Nathan caught Cooper's eye across the room. The trainer gave a small nod before slipping out the side door, avoiding Marissa, who stood frozen beside Collins. Her perfect facade finally cracked beyond repair. Outside the courthouse, Nathan called Jonas. We won. He said simply, I'm picking up Callum from school and we coming home. The moving truck pulled away from the curb, carrying the last of Marissa's possessions. Nathan watched from the driveway, a curious emptiness replacing the anger that had driven him for the past month. He felt nothing as he watched the physical remnants of his marriage disappear down Magnolia Lane, no satisfaction, no grief, just a hollow certainty that this chapter was finally closing. Callum stood beside him, his small hand finding Nathan's. Is Mom going to stay with Cooper now? Nathan glanced down at his son, considering how to answer. In a week since the hearing, Cooper had disappeared completely, reportedly taking a job at a gym across town. Marissa had been left alone to pack her things under the supervision of a court-appointed observer who ensured she took only what legally belonged to her. I'm not sure, but Nathan replied honestly, that's for Mom to figure out. They walked back into the house, their house now, truly and legally. The spaces where Marissa's possessions have been left dusty outlines on the walls and floors like shadows of past life. Nathan had already decided they would renovate, erase every trace of what had happened here. Can I help pay my room? Callum asked, as if reading his thoughts. Nathan smiled, ruffling the boy's hair. Absolutely. Any color you want. Even black. Let us discuss that one. Nathan laughed, the sound feeling foreign but good. How about we start with the kitchen? I was thinking a bright yellow, something cheerful. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into a new routine. Nathan adjusted his work schedule, taking on fewer projects to be home more with Callum. They ate breakfast together every morning and dinner every night. On weekends, they tackled the house room by room, painting, replacing fixtures, rearranging furniture. Marissa's supervised visits with Callum were tense affairs that left the boy quiet and withdrawn afterward. After the third such visit, during which Marissa had apparently spent the entire time questioning Callum about what Nathan was doing and who visited the house, Nathan contacted Mara. She is still manipulating him. He explained over the phone, not directly badmouthing me anymore, but asking leading questions, making him feel responsible for her happiness. Document everything, Mara advised. The supervisor should be noting this behavior as well. It will factor into the final custody determination. The divorce proceedings move forward with surprising speed. With the property already legally established as Nathan's an emergency custody order in place, Collins had little left to fight for beyond a financial settlement. Even there, Mara held the upper hand, using the documented unauthorized withdrawals to argue against any additional support from Marissa. 3 days before the final hearing, Nathan received an unexpected email from Richard Collins. Mr. Creed, my client wishes to propose a settlement to resolve all outstanding matters in your divorce. In exchange for you waiving any claims related to the unauthorized bank withdrawals and false police report, Mrs. Creed will agree to your proposed custody arrangement, primary physical custody to you with standard visitation for her, and make no further claims on the property or other assets. Please consult with Ms. Tinsley and advise if this is acceptable. Richard Collins, the SQ. Nathan forwarded the email to Mara, who called him immediately. They re-surrendering, she said without preamble. Collins knows he's beaten and he's trying to salvage what he can from Marissa. What do you think? Nathan asked, staring out the kitchen window at the magnolia tree in full bloom. Its white flowers brilliant against the deep green leaves. It's a good offer, Mara admitted. Better than what a judge would likely grant her, given everything that's come to light. But I think we could push for supervised visitation to continue, given her ongoing attempts to manipulate Callum. And there's the matter of the legal fees you've incurred due to her actions. Nathan considered this. Part of him, the wounded, angry part, wanted to push for everything to leave Marissa with nothing, just as she planned to do to him. But another part, perhaps the part that had first fallen in love with her years ago, felt only tired sadness at what they'd become. Let's counter, he decided, supervised visitation for 6 more months, then reassess. And she covers my legal fees. But I would not pursue anything about the bank withdrawals or police report. You being generous. Mara noted a hint of surprise in her voice. Not for her, Nathan clarified. For Callum. And for me, I'm ready to be done with this. The final hearing was anticlimactic after the drama of the emergency custody battle. Judge Weathers reviewed the settlement agreement, questioned both parties to ensure they understood the terms, and then granted the divorce, ending 15 years of marriage with the stroke of 8 p.m. Nathan left the courthouse for the last time. He spotted Marissa standing alone by the entrance, smaller somehow, in a simple dress that lacked her usual polish. Their eyes met briefly, and for a moment Nathan thought she might approach him. Instead, she turned away, walking quickly toward a waiting cab. That evening, Nathan hosted a small gathering in the newly renovated backyard, just Jonas and Camille, Officer Stroud, who'd become a friend during the ordeal, and a few neighbors who stood by him through the worst of it. Callum ran around with Jonas's grandkids, his laughter a healing sound in the warm night air. To new beginnings, Jonas toasted, raising his beer bottle, as glasses clinked. Nathan felt something shift inside him, not forgiveness, perhaps, but acceptance. The path forward was clear now, unburdened by the weight of betrayal that had consumed him for so long. Later, after everyone had gone and Callum was asleep, Nathan sat alone on the back porch, listening to the night sounds of the neighborhood. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I heard about the settlement. You won. Congratulations. Cooper. Nathan stared at the message for a long moment before deleting it without response. Cooper, like Marissa, belonged to a chapter that was now closed. The house creaked and settled around him, no longer haunted by the ghosts of what had been. Tomorrow, he and Callum would finish painting the living room, the final space to be reclaimed. And after that, they would simply live, building something new from the ashes of what had burned away. 6 weeks after the divorce was finalized, Nathan stood in his kitchen, surveying the transformation. Gone with a pristine white cabinet Marissa had insisted on, replaced with warm oak that matched the new hardwood floors. The sterile granite countertops had given way to butcher block, bearing the honest marks of daily use, and knife slip here, a hot pan there. The walls glowed a soft yellow, just as he promised Callum. Looking good, Nate, Jonas commented, leaning against the doorframe. He stopped by to help install the new light fixtures, industrial-style pendants that hung over the island. Barely recognized the place. That's the idea. Nathan replied, wiping his hands on a rag. Coffee. As they sat at the island, mugs in hand, Jonas studied his friend's face. You looking better too. Less haunted. Nathan suggested with a wry smile. I was gonna say like hell, but yours is more poetic. Jonas took a long sip of coffee. Callum seems to be settling in well. Nathan nodded, glancing at the refrigerator, now covered with his son's drawings and school papers. He has his moments. The therapist says that's normal, given everything that happened. But overall, he's doing great. Back to playing baseball, making friends. And Nathan's expression tightened slightly, keeping to the visitation schedule. The supervisor says she's been more appropriate lately. He shrugged. We do not communicate directly much. Everything goes through the co-parenting app the court recommended. Jonas nodded thoughtfully. Camille heard she's moved to an apartment downtown, got a job at that fancy boutique on Broughton Street. Good for her. Nathan said, meaning it. Whatever Marissa did now was her business. As long as it did not affect Callum negatively. The conversation shifted to other topics. Jonas's retirement plans. The classic Mustang, he was restoring Callum's upcoming baseball tournament. It felt good. This simple male camaraderie that asked for nothing but offered quiet understanding. Later that week, as Nathan helped Callum with homework at the kitchen table, his phone rang with a call from Mara Tinsley. Nathan, I have some news, she said after they exchanged greetings. The court-appointed supervisor has submitted her final report recommending an end to supervised visitation. Judge Weathers is inclined to follow that recommendation. Nathan glanced at Callum, absorbed in his math problems, and stepped onto the back porch. Is that a good idea? It's only been 4 months. The supervisor's report is quite positive. Mara replied. She notes that Marissa has shown consistent improvement in her interactions with Callum, has completed the required parenting classes, and appears to have accepted the current custody arrangement. Nathan absorbed this conflicted. Part of him did not trust Marissa's apparent transformation, suspecting it might be another calculated performance. But another part wanted to believe she had genuinely changed for Callum's sake. What do you think, he asked, professionally speaking? Mara was quiet for a moment. Professionally, the evidence supports ending supervision. Marissa has met all court requirements and has not given us any legitimate reason to object. She paused. Personally, I understand your hesitation. But consider this. If she reverts to problematic behavior without the supervisor present, it will only strengthen our position if we need to return to court. Nathan watched a cardinal land on the feeder Callum had built with Jonas. Its bright red plumage, a splash of color against the green backdrop of the yard. All right, we would not oppose it. One more thing, Mara added. The court would like a joint session with both of you and the family counselor before making it official. Standard procedure to ensure successful transition. The meeting was scheduled for the following week. Nathan approached it with cautious optimism, determined to maintain civility for Callum's sake regardless of his personal feelings toward Marissa. When he arrived at the counselor's office, Marissa was already there, seated in the waiting area. Nathan almost did not recognize her at first. The carefully highlighted hair and designer clothes were gone, replaced by a simple ponytail and modest dress. She looked younger somehow, more like the woman he first met 15 years ago. Nathan, she greeted him quietly, no hostility, no false warmth, just acknowledgement. Marissa, he replied with a nod, taking a seat across from her. They sat in awkward silence until the counselor, Dr. Bennett, called them in. The session was straightforward, a review of co-parenting expectations, communication guidelines, and strategies for handling disagreements constructively. Both Nathan and Marissa participated respectfully, putting Callum's needs at the center of every discussion. As they prepared to leave, Dr. Bennett offered a final observation. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I can tell you that your situation, while it began unusually contentiously, has evolved more positively than most. Whatever personal feelings remain between you, you've both clearly prioritized your son's well-being. That's commendable. Outside, as they headed to their respective cars, Marissa paused. Nathan, wait. When he turned, she seemed to struggle with her words. I want to thank you for not fighting the end of supervision. I know you could have. Nathan studied her. Try to gauge her sincerity. It's what's best for Callum. She nodded, eyes downcast. I've been seeing someone. A therapist, I mean. Not. She trailed off. Anyway, I'm working through some things. Understanding why I did what I did. It does not excuse anything, but she took a deep breath. I'm sorry for all of it. Nathan stood silently, unprepared for the apology. Part of him wanted to dismiss it, to remind her of the destruction she caused. But what would that accomplish? More bitterness, more anger, emotions he'd been working to release. I appreciate that, he said, finally, not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. I'm moving to Athens next month. Marissa continued. I've been off for a management position at a boutique there. It's close enough that I can still see Callum regularly. But she hesitated. I think we could all use some distance to heal. Nathan nodded slowly. Probably for the best. A moment of awkward silence stretched between them. 15 years of shared history distilled into this strange, formal exchange. Callum talks about the house. Marissa said eventually says you've changed everything. Almost everything. Nathan confirmed. It needed to be done. Yes, she agreed quietly. It did. She glanced at her watch. I should go. Thank you again, Nathan. As he watched her walk away, Nathan felt an unexpected lightness. Not forgiveness, he was not sure he'd ever reached that point, but perhaps the beginning of letting go. That weekend, Nathan and Callum faced their final renovation project, the deck that wrapped around the back of the house. Years of Georgia's sun and humidity had taken their toll, leaving the wood splintered and worn. Rather than repair it, Nathan had decided to replace it entirely. First rule of demolition. Nathan instructed as they stood surveying the old deck, safety glasses in place, is to work systematically. We do not just start smashing things. Callum nodded seriously, clearly proud to be included in man's work as Jonas called it. Together, they began removing the railings, then the decking boards, working methodically until they reached the support structure beneath mid-afternoon. They cleared away the old materials and started setting the new supports. Nathan showed Callum how to measure twice and cut once, how to check that everything was level, how to drive a nail true. The boy absorbed it all with quiet concentration, his face lighting up whenever Nathan praised his work. Jonas and Camille stopped by later with sandwiches and cold drinks, surveying their progress with approval. As they ate on a picnic blanket in the yard, Camille leaned toward Nathan. "We rethinking of hosting a little neighborhood gathering next weekend," she said casually, "nothing fancy, just a cookout. Perfect opportunity to show off your new deck." Nathan arched an eyebrow. "If it's done by then it will be," Jonas assured him with a confidence that made Nathan suspicious. "What are you two up to?" Camille and Jonas exchanged looks. "Well," Camille began, "we may have mentioned to a few people that you were finishing the house renovations. And those people may have mentioned it to a few other people. And somehow it turned into a bit of a celebration." "A celebration of what?" Nathan asked, bewildered. Jonas shrugged. "New beginnings? The end of summer? Does it matter? People want to come together, Nate. Let them." Nathan looked at Callum, who was watching the exchange with interest. "What do you think, bud? Should we host a party when the deck is done?" Callum's face broke into a wide smile. "Can I invite Tyler from school and Coach Reynolds?" "Sure." Nathan agreed, realizing he could not say no to that face. "But you three," he pointed at Callum, "Jonas and Camille, are helping me finish this deck in time." The following Saturday, the new deck gleamed with fresh sealant under strings of lights Camille had insisted on hanging. The yard hummed with conversation and laughter as neighbors, clients, and friends gathered to eat, drink, and celebrate nothing in particular and everything important. Nathan manned the grill, turning burgers and hot dogs with practiced ease. He lost track of how many people had shown up, but the crowd had grown steadily throughout the evening. Callum darted between groups of adults, proudly showing off the deck railings he helped sand and stain. Officer Stroud Raquel as she asked Nathan to call her approach with a cold beer in hand. "Quite the turnout," she observed, handing him the bottle. "Guess I'm not the only one who thought you might need cheering up." Nathan accepted the beer with a nod of thanks. "Apparently, I've been more pathetic than I realized." Raquel laughed. "Not pathetic. Just solitary. It's good to see you surrounded by people who care about you." As the evening progressed, Nathan found himself drawn into conversations he'd have avoided months ago, discussions about future projects, community initiatives, even tentative plans for a fishing trip with some of the other neighborhood dads. It was as if the social connections that had frayed during his marriage's collapse were slowly being rewoven, stronger than before. Later, as the party began to wind down, Nathan stood at the edge of the yard watching Callum play a modified version of tag with the remaining children. Jonas joined him, 2 glasses of bourbon in hand. "Successful evening," Jonas commented, passing one glass to Nathan. "Thanks to you and Camille," Nathan acknowledged, taking a sip. The bourbon burned pleasantly going down, warming him from the inside. "I needed this." "We both did." Jonas nodded toward Callum. "Boy seems happy." "Lighter." "He is." Nathan watched his son dart between 2 older kids, his laughter carrying across the yard. "The therapist says he's processing everything in a healthy way. Kids are resilient, apparently. So are their fathers." Jonas observed quietly. Nathan considered this. 6 months ago, he'd been consumed by betrayal and anger, focused solely on winning the fight Marissa had started. Now, standing in his transformed backyard, surrounded by people who stood by him, he realized he'd gained something more valuable than victory. He reclaimed himself to resilience. He said, raising his glass. Jonas clinked his glass against Nathan's and to good neighbors who know when to mind their own business and when to meddle shamelessly. Nathan laughed, a full, unreserved sound that felt like another step in his healing. The path forward was not perfectly clear yet. But for the first time since that night with the police at his door, he felt genuinely optimistic about the future. As the last guest departed and Callum fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from the excitement, Nathan stood on his new deck, looking up at the stars visible between the magnolia branches. The house behind him was quiet, peaceful, truly home again. Fall arrived in Savannah with subtle shifts, slightly cooler mornings, a different quality to the light filtering through the trees, the first hints of color touching the leaves of the sweet gums and maples. Nathan and Callum settled into comfortable routines, school drop-offs and pickups, baseball practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays, movie nights on Fridays, and weekend project around the house. That Marissa's move to Athens had gone smoothly. She maintained her visitation schedule, driving down every other weekend to spend time with Callum. To Nathan's surprise, the transition away from supervised visits had been uneventful. Whatever Marissa's therapist was helping her work through seemed to be having a positive effect. Life had found a new normal, different from before, but stable and increasingly content. One crisp October evening, Nathan sat on the deck grading paper for the woodworking class he started teaching at the community center. Callum emerged from the house with his math homework, settling into the chair beside his father. They worked in companionable silence for a while. The scratch of pencils on paper punctuated occasionally by Callum's questions about fractions or Nathan's comments on a student's joinery technique. The sun began to set, painting the sky in dramatic oranges and purples. That Callum said suddenly, setting his homework aside. "Can I ask you something?" Nathan looked up, recognizing the serious tone. "Of course, but anything." Callum seemed to consider his words carefully. "Do you ever regret it?" "Regret what?" "Everything that happened with Mom and the divorce and the court stuff." Callum fidgeted with his pencil. "Sometimes I hear kids at school talking about their parents, divorces, and they say things like, if only my dad had tried harder, or my mom says she wishes she'd given him another chance." Nathan set his red pen down, giving his son his full attention. This was the most direct conversation they had about the divorce in months. "That's a big question," he said, respecting Callum's maturity enough not to dismiss it with platitudes. "I regret that you had to go through all that. I regret the pain it caused you. But do you regret standing up to Mom?" Callum pressed. "Fighting back when she tried to take everything." Nathan considered this, watching the sun set deep in. "No," he said finally, "I do not regret that. There are times in life when you have to decide what you stand for, what lines not be crossed. For me, it was not about the house or the money. It was about you and about truth." Callum nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. Then after a moment, "Mom told me she's sorry about what she did." Nathan looked at his son, surprised. "She told you that, yeah, last weekend? She said she made bad choices because she was unhappy, but that it was not fair to try to hurt you or lie about you." Callum shrugged. "She cried a little." Nathan absorbed this, uncertain how to respond. It aligned with the apology Marissa had offered him months earlier, suggesting genuine remorse rather than strategic performance. "That could not have been an easy conversation," he said finally. "It was weird," Callum admitted, "but kind of good too. Like, she was not blaming you anymore. And she was not making me feel like I had to choose." "I'm glad to hear that," Nathan said, meaning it. Whatever his feelings toward Marissa, her healing was important for Callum's sake. They lapsed in a silence again, watching as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. Nathan thought about how far they'd come from those chaotic first days, Callum crying in the principal's office. Nathan sleeping in Jonas's guest room, the bitter court battle that had consumed them. "Dad," Callum spoke again, his voice thoughtful. "Tyler's parents got divorced last year. And his dad is still really angry all the time. He says mean things about Tyler's mom. And it makes Tyler feel bad." Nathan turned to look at his son, recognizing the unspoken question. "And you wondering why I'm not still angry at your mom?" Callum nodded. "You said you'd never forgive her. I heard you tell Mr. Burke that." Nathan sighed, remembering the raw fury of those early days. "I did say that. And I meant it at the time." He paused, searching for the right words. "But there's a difference between not forgiving someone and letting your anger control your life. I do not forgive what happened. But I've chosen not to let it define our future, yours or mine." "Is that why you do not say bad things about Mom?" Callum asked, partly, Nathan acknowledged, but also because regardless of what happened between your mother and me, she is still your mom. You love her. And that's exactly as it should be. Callum seemed to process this. "But were not you sad or mad?" Both, Nathan admitted. "Very sad and very mad for a long time. but holding on to those feelings would not have helped either of us move forward. He reached over to ruffle Callum's hair. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is not to keep fighting, but to decide when the fight is over and focus on building something new. They sat in silence for a while longer, the darkness settling around them like a comfortable blanket. Across the yard, fireflies have begun to emerge, their intermittent glow like earthbound stars. "Can I ask you one more thing?" Callum said eventually. "Shoot, do you regret marrying Mom?" The question was asked softly, tentatively. Nathan felt a tightness in his chest, but answered honestly. "No, Callum, I do not. Because without that I would not have you." He looked directly at his son. "And you re the best thing that ever happened to me." Callum smiled, the tension in his young face easing. After a moment he gathered his homework and stood. "I'm going to finish this inside. It's getting cold." "I'll be in soon," Nathan promised. As Callum headed back to the house, he paused at the door. "Dad, some people mistake kindness for weakness, do not they?" Nathan looked up, surprised by the insight from his 11-year-old. "Yes, they do. More often than you think." Callum nodded soberly. "That's not on us, though. That's on them." With that, he disappeared inside, leaving Nathan staring after him in amazement. Nathan turned back to the yard, now almost completely dark except for the patio lights and the dance of fireflies. He thought about Callum's words, so simple yet profound in their understanding. Some people mistake kindness for weakness. That's not on us. That's on them. When how does son become so wise? Perhaps he'd always been observing, learning, processing the world around him with those quiet, thoughtful eyes. Nathan leaned back in his chair, looking up at the star-filled sky. The anger that had driven him through the divorce had burned itself out, leaving behind not emptiness but clarity. Strength was not found in hanging on to grievances or seeking vengeance. It was found in standing firm for what mattered, then having the courage to move forward. From inside came the sound of Callum rummaging in the kitchen, probably looking for a snack. The porch light flicked on, illuminating the deck Nathan had built with his own hands with his son's help. All around him were signs of the life they were creating, not perfect, but honest and good. Victory, Nathan realized, had not been about defeating Marissa in court. It had been about proving to himself and to Callum that even in ashes, honor and integrity could survive. That the end of one chapter did not mean the end of the story. He gathered his papers and headed inside toward the warmth and light of the home they had reclaimed and remade step by step together.